A blonde woman was driving through the countryside, listening to the radio. Annoyingly, it was all blonde jokes, so she turned it off in frustration. Trying to relax, she looked out at the scenery, only to see something even worse. In the middle of a cornfield, another blonde was sitting in a rowboat, paddling away as if it were water. Furious, she pulled over, rolled down her window, and yelled, "You're the reason blondes get a bad reputation. If I could swim, I'd come out there and drown you myself." A poor old woman with a small family called a radio station, praying aloud for God's help. A non-believer listening to the program decided to mock her. He found her address, then instructed his secretary to deliver a large supply of food to her home. He added a note. "If she asks, tell her the food is from the devil." When the secretary arrived and handed over the food, the woman was overjoyed and began unpacking it with heartfelt gratitude. Curious, the secretary asked, "Don't you want to know who sent this?" The woman smiled and said, "No, it doesn't matter. When God gives the order, even the devil obeys." One cold winter morning in northern Minnesota, a husband and wife were eating breakfast while listening to the radio. The announcer said, "We're expecting 8 to 10 inches of snow today. Please park your car on the even-numbered side of the street so the snowplows can get through." The dutiful wife went outside and moved her car. A week later, during breakfast, the radio announced, "We're expecting 10 to 12 inches of snow today. Please park your car on the odd-numbered side of the street." Again, the good wife went out and moved her car. The next week, as they sat down for breakfast, the announcer began, "We're expecting 12 to 14 inches of snow today. Please park." But then the power went out. The wife looked distressed. "Honey," she said, "I don't know what to do. Which side of the street should I park on so the snowplows can get through?" With a patient smile and a voice full of love, her husband replied, "Why don't you just leave it in the garage this time?" A little boy answered the phone one day, catching the caller by surprise. "Hi there. Is your mommy or daddy home?" the caller asked. "Mommy's busy," the boy replied. "Okay, how about your daddy?" "Daddy's busy too." "All right," said the caller. "Is anyone else there with you?" "The police," the boy said. "The police." "Oh my! Can I talk to one of the officers?" "They're busy," the boy replied matter-of-factly. "Wow," the caller said. "Is anyone else there?" "The firefighters." "Goodness. May I speak to one of the firefighters then?" "No," said the boy. "They're busy too." The caller, now alarmed, asked, "What is everyone so busy doing?" "They're looking for me," the boy said cheerfully. During World War I, 2 men were stranded on an uninhabited island after their aging minesweeper wrecked off the coast. As the seasoned veteran set about building a makeshift camp, the younger soldier managed to salvage a radio. After tinkering with it, he successfully sent out an SOS, providing their coordinates. To their relief, a ship responded within the hour, promising to arrive in about 2 weeks. The older veteran sighed and shook his head. "I'd rather swim back to that wreck and try to fix it myself." The younger soldier laughed. "You'd really rather tinker with that old Minecraft all day?" The veteran shrugged. "It's better than a fortnight." A husband and wife were having a conversation when the wife asked, "Why aren't you going to your friend's wife's funeral?" The husband hesitated and said, "Honestly, I feel embarrassed." The wife replied, "Embarrassed? Why?" He sighed and said, "Well, he is inviting me for his 4th wife's funeral, and I've never invited him, not even once." A husband calls the sheriff's office to report his wife missing. Husband, "My wife went shopping yesterday and hasn't come home." Sheriff, "All right, sir. Let's start with some basics. How tall is she?" Husband, A little over 5 feet, I think." Sheriff, "Her weight?" Husband, Not sure. She's not slim, but not, big either. Sheriff. Eye color? Husband. Brownish, maybe hazel. I never really noticed. Sheriff. Hair color? Husband. It changes a couple of times a year. Might be dark brown right now. Sheriff. What was she wearing? Husband. Could have been pants, or maybe a skirt. Shorts, perhaps? I didn't pay attention. Sheriff. What kind of car did she leave in? Husband. Oh, she took my truck. Sheriff. And what kind of truck is it? Suddenly, the husband's tone changes as he becomes emotional. Husband. It's a 2016 Pearl White Ram Limited 4x4 with a 6.4-liter Hemi 5.8 engine. It has the Ram box bar and fridge option, LED lighting, front and rear cameras, moose hide leather heated and cooled seats, climate control, sunroof, DVD with GPS navigation, satellite radio, a Cobra 75 WXSTCB radio, 6 cup holders, 3 USB ports, 4 power outlets, custom alloy wheels, off-road Toyo tires, retractable running boards, and underglow wheel well lighting. By now, the husband is on the verge of tears. Sheriff, don't worry, sir. We'll find your truck. A guy driving a Kia pulls up to a stoplight next to a Rolls-Royce. Rolling down his window, he shouts, "Hey, nice car! You got Wi-Fi in that Rolls? I've got Wi-Fi in my Kia." The driver of the Rolls gives a polite nod. "Yes, I have Wi-Fi." The Kia driver grins. "Cool. Hey, do you have a fridge in there?" I've got a fridge in the back seat of my Kia." The Rolls driver, starting to look irritated, replies, "Yes, I have a refrigerator." "Nice," says the Kia driver. "What about a TV?" "I've got a TV in my Kia, too." The Rolls driver, now visibly annoyed, says, "Of course I have a television." A Rolls-Royce is the pinnacle of luxury. "Sweet ride," the Kia driver exclaims. "But do you have a bed in there? I've got a bed in the back of my Kia." The Rolls driver, flustered that he doesn't have a bed, speeds off in frustration. He heads straight to the dealership and demands the best bed money can buy. The next morning, his Rolls is outfitted with a custom-made bed. Silk sheets, brass trim, the works. Pleased with his upgrade, the Rolls driver spends the day cruising around town, looking for the Kia. Late that night, he finally spots the Kia parked on the side of the road, its windows completely fogged up. Smirking, the Rolls driver gets out, walks over, and knocks on the Kia's window. After a moment, the Kia driver cracks the window, his hair soaking wet. The Rolls driver announces smugly, "I've got a bed in the back of my Rolls-Royce now." The Kia driver stares at him in disbelief. "You got me out of the shower to tell me that?" A television crew visits a farm to interview a shepherd about his daily routine. "Our viewers would love to know what a typical day looks like for you," the reporter says. "Could you walk us through it from the start?" "Sure thing," says the shepherd. "First thing in the morning I wake up, but I'm not much of a morning person. So I take a sip of my brandy to get going. Then I head out to let the sheep out, but I'm still groggy, so I take 2 more sips to wake up and 1 extra to give me the energy to open the gate. Once I'm in the field, I usually meet up with my buddy, and we share 2 bottles of brandy together. Then, hold on," the reporter interrupts. "I'm sorry, but we can't air that. Kids might be watching, and we don't want to send the wrong message. Could we, say that whenever you drink, you're reading a book instead?" The shepherd nods. "Oh, okay. That makes sense. Let's try again." He starts over. "First thing in the morning, I wake up and read a page of my book. Then I go outside and read 2 more pages, plus 1 more while I'm opening the gate for the sheep. Out in the field, I usually meet up with my buddy, and together we read 2 whole books. Then we head back, reading page after page, while putting the sheep back in the barn. And at the end of the day, we go into town, where my friend owns a library, and we read until morning. A man came home from a long, grueling day at work, dropped onto the couch, and turned on the TV. Exhausted, he called to his wife, "Honey, get me a beer before it starts." She sighed but brought him a beer. 10 minutes later, he said, "Can you grab me another beer before it starts?" Irritated, she fetched another beer, slamming it down in front of him. A few minutes passed, and he called out again, "Quick, get me one more beer. It's about to start." That was it. His wife exploded. "Is that all you're going to do tonight? Sit there, drinking beer and watching TV. You're so lazy. You never help out around the house, and I'm sick of—" The man sighed, shook his head, and said, "Yep, it started." An elderly couple is sitting on the couch watching TV when a commercial break comes on. The husband smiles and says, "You know what? I'd love some ice cream right now." His wife replies, "Me too. What do you want? I'll go get it." He thinks for a moment. "I'd like 2 scoops of vanilla with chocolate and caramel syrup, whipped cream, and a cherry on top." "Wait, let me write that down for you so you don't forget." She rolls her eyes. "Oh, please, I'm not old like you. I'll remember. Be right back." After a while, she returns with a tray and proudly sets it down. Eggs, sunny side up, bacon, and a glass of orange juice. The husband sighs, puts his hand on his head, and groans, "You forgot the toast." A blonde woman walks into an electronics shop. The shop owner asks, "Can I help you?" She points to a television and says, "I'd like to buy that one." The owner replies, "Sorry, we don't sell to blondes." She leaves, only to return a little later with a red wig on. Points again and says, "I'd like to buy that television." The owner responds, "I'm sorry, we don't sell to blondes." Frustrated, she leaves again and this time comes back with her hair dyed brown. She points to the same television and says, "I'd like to buy that one." Once more, the owner says, "We don't sell to blondes." Annoyed, she asks, "How do you know I'm a blonde?" He calmly replies, "Because that's a microwave." A man walks into a bar and orders a drink. The bartender hands him his drink, and the man asks, "If I show you something crazy, will you give me free drinks for the rest of the night?" The bartender thinks for a moment and replies, "It better be something spectacular to earn that offer." The man leans down, picks up a small box, and sets it on the bar. He opens the box, revealing a tiny piano player, no more than a foot tall, sitting at a miniature piano. The little pianist begins to play classical music, flawlessly performing pieces by Beethoven and Chopin. Once he finishes, the bartender is stunned. "You can have free drinks for the rest of the night," the bartender says, "but only if you tell me where you found this." The man answers, "In the alley behind your bar, there's a genie who grants wishes to anyone who asks." Excited, the bartender rushes out to the alley to see if it's true. A few minutes later, a cacophony of quacking erupts from the alley. The bartender returns, slamming the door behind him to stop the flood of ducks. He looks at the man, bewildered, and says, "I think the genie's hard of hearing. I asked for $1 million, and instead, thousands of ducks showed up." The man chuckles and replies, "Did you really think I wished for a 12-inch pianist?" A gorilla walks into a bar and orders a martini. The bartender is absolutely amazed, but thinks, "What the heck, I'll make the drink." So he mixes the martini and walks over to the gorilla, who is holding out a $20 bill. At this point, the bartender is completely speechless. A gorilla not only orders a martini, but also has a 20 to pay for it. Still in disbelief, he takes the 20 and walks over to the cash register to make change. As he's standing there, he pauses and thinks, "Let's see if the gorilla notices anything." He returns to the gorilla, hands him $1 in change, and the gorilla quietly continues sipping his martini. After a few moments, the bartender can't hold it in any longer. "You know," he says to the gorilla, "we don't get many gorillas in here." The gorilla looks up and replies, "At $19 a drink, I'm not surprised."